Fellowship. My name is Connie Clendenin, and I'm on the steering committee, and we are delighted to have you with us today. Some of what we do every time is tradition. One of those is eating, another one is singing, and another one is praying. Those are the things I'm responsible for. So on your little tables, there is a song sheet that has the words of the song. One of my favorite four-letter words is H-O-P-E, hope. So Christ the Solid Rock is the name of the song we're going to sing. And if you're still in line, no problem. If you're eating, no problem. But we're going to sing. Get that chicken and rice out of your mouth. Here we go. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand. Excellent. Let's pray. God, we're so thankful today that we can be together. Thank you for the ability to feed ourselves, to hear, to see, to taste, to touch. It's good to know that you have given us another day to live and make a difference. So we commit to you this time and all that has gone into it before today and all that is going to be presented today on how we can have an impact on our city in a tangible way. So help us to leave this place better than we came. And we came pretty good. So God, thank you for each one that's here. Bless us, bless our dignitaries, bless our volunteers, the hands that prepared this wonderful food, Paul and his crew. Thank you for that, and to God be the glory. In Jesus' name, we all said? Amen. All right, here we go.
Thank you. Good midday to you, everyone. And it's great to see you. My name is Corey Seibel, and I am one of the co-chairs of the No Name Fellowship. The No Name Fellowship is a collective, a movement of people that have banded together around a shared mission of releasing God's resources to rebuild our city through reconciled relationships. And luncheons like this are an integral part of the rhythm of how we are endeavoring to impact this community and to participate in the rebuilding of our city. But there's a lot more that goes on within the life of the No Name Fellowship. In the spaces between these luncheons, we are bringing together groups of people to strive to impact our city in a very targeted kind of way, because we've discovered that it's possible to have a deeper and more lasting impact if we seek to engage the city in a targeted way rather than in kind of a broad and generic kind of way. And so we are in the practice of identifying some of the burdens that emerge from the fabric of our community and to, through time, focus on specific initiatives that address those issues. In the past, we have been dealing with issues like literacy and concentrated poverty. On an ongoing basis, we are seeking to grapple with the very complex issue of immigration in our community. And we also are striving now to look at how our churches throughout our community seeking to make an intentional impact in the community right around them by engaging their neighborhoods in a variety of ways. So what we do is we bring together groups of people who have a shared passion and desire to make a shared investment in relation to these initiatives, to talk together, to search together, to develop a deeper understanding of the burdens of our community, what God might wish to do in touching our community with peace and wholeness and flourishing, and to identify resources and practices and to build relationships that can contribute to that future that is still before us within the life of this community. And I'm pleased today to be able to say that the Jobs Initiative that you've come to hear about is one of the shining examples of what we mean to be about as a No Name Fellowship in developing initiatives that will have meaningful impact within the life of our community. And I trust that there are really good things in store for us as we share this time together today. So as we continue on now, we're going to turn to a video that is going to set the stage for what this time has in store for us.
Imagine a musician who can no longer make music. By losing the ability to do something they were created to do, they lose a piece of themselves. They lose a sense of purpose. We were created and designed by God to work, and our work is one of the core places that we receive our purpose and dignity. But what if you didn't have access to good work? For millions of people in need, this is reality. Many men and women, for many different reasons, can't find employment, are underemployed, or are shut out of jobs. And without employment, there is loss of purpose and dignity, which creates a vicious cycle of poverty, economically, spiritually, and emotionally. Christians have always been engaged in the fight to break this cycle, but the majority of the church's effort and resources for those in need begins with food, then housing, then clothing, and then at the very bottom of the list is work. But without employment and the means to actually provide for themselves and their families, the cycle continues, which begs the question, what if we flip the list? What would happen if churches and nonprofits were empowered to actually help those in need find and keep employment and provide for themselves? The folks at Jobs for Life think this could change the game forever. Jobs for Life equips local churches and other organizations to champion the cause of work for those who need it most. By teaching individuals a biblical understanding of their identity and work and surrounding them with a community to support them, we can help people experience the hope and transformation they need to find and thrive at work.
Thanks, Andrew. Greetings, everybody. Please feel free to keep eating. Thank you for carving time out of your day to think with us together on this topic. I'm just thrilled to be connected to this effort and for the last year to have been connected to it. My name is Randy White. I'm the Director of Doctoral Degrees with Bakke Graduate University, working with about 500 leaders around the world from 39 countries, looking about how to transform cities. And jobs has been a key component of that effort. I'm also now the founding director of the Fresno Pacific University Center for Community Transformation. That transition will happen next month. And I'm very proud to be connected with that as well, and hope that through that center, which we're refining and launching hopefully in mid-fall, we'll be able to fan the flames of efforts like this even further. Well, the mayor came to No Name Fellowship about a year ago. Some of you recall Mayor Swearingen, and she said, I love what you guys are doing. Your emphasis on concentrated poverty, your emphasis on literacy, your emphasis on immigration reform. These are things we want you to continue. But she says, we have a challenge right now that we need people of faith to get into the game on, and I'm laying down a challenge to the No Name Fellowship. What could the church scattered, not just the church gathered, but what could the church scattered bring to the table with regard to Fresno's raging unemployment? With regard to Fresno's lack of educational attainment that contributes to this raging unemployment. The fact is we have a 17.4% unemployment rate in Fresno. That's about 88,000 of our neighbors do not have an adequate job. And when we think about that, we know that there would be a national outcry if that 17.4% figure were a national figure. But for some reason, because it's Fresno, we just accept this. We have been lulled to sleep over the years because it's easy to carve out our own lives without reference to those 88,000 neighbors. We all do it. And we've come to accept this as the status quo. And many of us in the No Name and elsewhere have just come to the conclusion that the status quo is not only morally wrong, it's actually dangerous to us as a city. It affects all the prosperity of this city in every way. So this year, we've learned that 40,000 prisoners are being released into our community and surrounding communities from California prisons through realignment and overcrowding. So many of these men are not employable. They don't have the soft skills necessary to land and sustain employment. And in general, as a community, we're not ready to be employed. Even if new businesses came to town. We've had a litany of corporations that have taken a look at Fresno and have loved us as a city because we're attractive with regard to land prices and the centrality in the state, and there's just so many things that are good about our city. But they leave because they have assessed that we have an uneducated workforce. There are thousands of jobs, according to the Education Task Force, every year in Fresno that go unfilled because of a skills gap. So how do those two things go together? 17% unemployment in our city and thousands of jobs going unfilled in our city. It's because of the skills gap. We also have a growing informal economy that drains potential tax increment from our infrastructure needs. Now, we all know what the issues and problems are, but we've learned in No Name not to focus just on the problems. We've learned to focus on the assets. And so with all of the deficits in our community, we've discovered that there are some amazing assets here that take us beyond the concentrated poverty that we live in. And we need to help each other see these assets. A few years ago, you might remember the Fresno 22 video project. We sent video cameras into Fresno's 22 poorest neighborhoods, the ones that the Brookings Institute identified as neighborhoods living in extreme poverty. And we asked, what's good and strong about these neighborhoods? That's an asset-based approach, and it was revolutionary for many. Many of your churches led studies based on that video for weeks after that event. And I still hear people all the time refer to that video as being helpful in changing the way we see our cities. Our city has 500 churches. It has more than 100 Christian nonprofit agencies. This is a tremendous asset when we think about the church scattered. But this resource has been largely untapped with regard to getting people ready for employment. And so at the mayor's prompting, last year, we launched into a year-long process of investigating the best national examples of church-based employment strategies, job creation, job training, and job placement. Yes, church-based job creation, not a phrase we hear a lot. We met for 11 months. We shared findings from our research, developed best practices, and guess what? It turns out that there are all sorts of cool things being done around the country. Some of it in our own city. So today is a chance for us to reveal a little bit of what we've learned and to ask you to consider linking your church or your nonprofit to the goal of becoming a city where everyone has access to work, something we were designed to do, as you saw from the Jobs for Life video, something that's fundamental to human dignity. Now, finally, if you stay along with us today, we're going to get you a copy of the outcome of that year-long project, a book that's just been published this month by Condeo Press called The Work of Our Hands. And we'll be telling you a little bit more about this later today. You'll have your own copy. Now, can I just briefly, we won't linger on this, but could I just briefly ask, if you had a small role in this No Name focus group this last year, if you came to one of the focus group meetings, if you helped do some of the editing, if you had any kind of role in this process over the last year, could I ask you to stand just in place around the room? Very good. Thank you. It's actually a group of about 15 people who spent a year, some shorter periods, some the whole time, who contributed to this project. And forgive me for doing this at the front end, but I'm afraid I'll run out of time at the end, so I'll do it now. I would like Artie Padilla of Every Neighborhood Partnership, Christy Nichols of Neighborhood Thrift, Bud Searcy of the Fresno Rescue Mission, Pastor Jeff Harrington of New Harvest Church and Highway Cities Community Development Corporation, and Brian File of Neighborhood Thrift. If you could just come here for a real quick minute. These individuals gave in tremendous ways. They were there at every monthly meeting for this last year. They did research in between. They have done yeoman's duty in the whole way. And I just want to say thank you to you all. And these wonderful plants behind you are for you. They are anthurium and peace lilies, and I think that's very appropriate for what we've been working on. So I just want to say thank you for your extra effort. I want to also recognize a couple of other contributors. Paul McCain-Legowski is here from EOC. He contributed a chapter, and Sharon Stanley, I don't know if she's been able to make it today, but she also assisted in this effort. Now, this would be a real shame if we thought that our goal was simply to publish a book. No, we're choosing to see the book as the beginning of a process and as an opportunity, if you will, for the church to come to the table in a new way, in a way that's especially relevant to where we are as a city now. So we're launching a year-long process starting now. It took one to get here, but we're launching another year-long process that we will be telling you about more at the end of this hour. It's our prayer that the work of our hands would lead to the work for many hands in Fresno. And we're excited to think about what that might mean during the course of this next year. We've asked Pastor Jeff Harrington, Reverend Dr. Harrington now, to come and remind us, why does this effort sit on such good biblical foundations?
Well, good afternoon. Grateful to be able to be here. And you know, coming to Christ late in life like I did, it was kind of interesting how I was thrown into this issue of what would we call holistic ministry, the whole person. And as I had the privilege to plant a church and then take over a thrift store and do some things with that, and through a mentor, Jim Westgate, forming Highway City Community Development, because I really had no idea what a nonprofit was 18 years ago. To do all those things, and then to come up here, Randy was a little worried that maybe my passion would burn a little too much, so he said he wanted me to be a little lighthearted. So I decided to go to Genesis and read that passage where it says, "And they were naked." You know, so I thought, you know, as I'm reading, I'm going, it's kind of interesting. You know, Genesis chapter 2, they were naked, and everything was good. And now you're going to go, where's he going with this jobs? I think it has everything to do with jobs, because they were supposed to be working in this unashamed way before God, that everything that they would do, even in a sense, their sense of, they didn't have clothes, but they had a job to do, and that's what always catches me in Genesis. In Genesis, it says that he formed them, that he formed Adam, and it says he took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to till it and to keep it. Some of your Bibles will say to work in it, some will say to cultivate it. And so here, now I'm assuming because he was naked, they didn't have thorns. You know, there's some things I'm kind of thinking probably weren't going on because sin hadn't entered the world yet. But the issue was, at the very beginning, when everything was perfect, or as the Lord said, when everything was good, he gave Adam a job. And the Hebrew word for that word, till it, which is used till in the book, cultivate, actually has to do with this issue that it's work. It literally is work or service. And so the issue of working is actually service, and it's service unto God. And then the issue of taking care of it is the issue of protection. That we're supposed to be protecting with the materials that have been created by God. We're supposed to protect them and care for them and perpetuate that into further generations. And as I start thinking about that model for what church-based, faith-based, Christian-based work initiatives, the issue is we are created in the image of God. Isn't that a core value for all of us? That every human being is created in the image of God. We have equal value before him, but even more so, we're more closely related to him than we even understand, because we have the same essence in us that God, and God's a worker. And so the whole Genesis piece begins, we see God doing something incredible. Of course, he's using nothing and creating magnificence, and his ultimate creation then becomes us. And again, creating us out of what he'd already created. I mean, isn't that the pinnacle of his creation was that he created us out of what he'd already created. And as we read that, he gives us a job because God's a worker. He gives us a purpose, a daily purpose. That's what if life was perfect, think about that. Life was perfect, and it was perfect in part because he gave Adam something to do on a daily basis that would bring honor and glory and praise to his creator. So he gave him something that would allow him to have a daily worship experience through the work of his hands to God. And that's what we lose when we have chronic unemployment. People, even if they don't know Christ, they lose purpose on what they can do on a daily basis. They know that they've been created. I mean, just as God created everything and then created us out of what he had created, we've been created to create things. We're allowed to out of chaos. I don't know about you. I'm not mechanical, so if you had an engine, whole engine laying on the ground for me, I'd be looking around you going, wow, that's a mess. Yet he's given some people the incredible ability to look at that chaos and put it back together into something that is beneficial for our society, for an individual maybe. And that's what God has done. And once that person is unemployed, their purpose, the abilities God gave them can't be utilized, and then their dignity starts to fail. It starts to be diminished. And it's not because they've lost an identity with Christ, if they're a Christian. It's just the fact that what they are created to do isn't being allowed to happen anymore in their life. We are created to do productive things. We are created to do things that pass on to other people, that take care of other people. So as Adam is learning how to cultivate, that was one of the words, it's in Scripture, cultivate. Well, you only cultivate in order to prepare for something in the future. So when somebody's unemployed, there's nothing for them to prepare unless you consider the resume applications, the online. I mean, I have a kid right now doing online applications. I mean, he's at 80. You know, that's the only way you can get to In-N-Out Burger now. You got to do it online. But the issue is when they're unemployed, they've lost the ability to do what God created them to do. And that's what Genesis points out to us. And then throughout the rest of Scripture, the biblical model is that our productivity actually brings prosperity, wholeness to other societies. We get that when we read the Jeremiah verse. We forget often that they were in a pagan society, yet they're being told to produce, to do well with the way God designed them, because not only will they have wholeness, shalom, but they'll bring that same wholeness, shalom, to a city that they're living in. We can keep going on throughout the Scriptures, all the way through. And that's what the first opening chapter of this book is all about. And it's that issue. So when we wonder why are they suffering psychologically? Why do they suffer emotionally? Why do they turn to alcoholism and drug abuse and all those types of things? Why does spousal abuse rise up in unemployment homes? Why do those things take place? It's because their purpose and dignity in creating things that originates in the Garden of Eden, at our original creation, has been stripped from them. And there's no better reason for the church to step in at that point and work as the church and help people be restored to wholeness in the name of Christ. So I just want to thank you for the time that I was given here today.
We'd like to make sure you get your own copy, and so they're being distributed to the tables right now. We'll direct you to a couple portions. Feel free to take a glimpse, but I don't want you to miss what's being shared, so don't get too engrossed in the book and miss the people that we want you to meet. I'd like to ask Sergio Perez. Where are you? There you are in back, Sergio. Okay, I'm coming to you, man. So Sergio is in the back, and you can stay there, and I'm going to have everybody swivel their head. I know for some people that's going to be hard to swivel their hair. All right. This is Sergio Perez, and Sergio is with Hope Now for Youth, and I have to say Hope Now for Youth is probably one of the premier gangs to jobs ministries anywhere in the country. A new movie has just been out, and some of you have seen that. But at their foundation, they are a job readiness and job placement program. And so Sergio, just very briefly, tell us what Hope Now does.
What we do is we go out and we find the hurting, the hopeless youth, guys ages 16 to 24. We go recruit and bring them back to Hope Now and just give them skills that can eventually change their lives, you know, with employment and as well as in their house.
So how does it work? You find a guy, he's in a gang, he wants to get out, and what do you do for him?
What we do, we offer 7 classes at Hope Now for Youth. They all deal with employment and life skills and, you know, just things that can make a difference. I mean, I'm one of the guys that came to the program myself, and I didn't realize that a simple what's up to somebody, you know, going for a job going for a job would cost me my job. And some guys would say, "Hey, man, I say that all the time." Well, that's why you're probably looking for a job, So, but they're here, and Hope Now, with the counselors, again, as I mentioned, I've been here for going on 12 years at Hope Now, and able to see the relationship. We can identify with each other. I could go up to them and tell them, hey, bro, you gotta pick up your pants. Oh, they are picked up now, waistline and up, stuff like that. Just little tools, little things that can cost them, even getting pulled over, get them. We had several guys throughout the years, they weren't representing their gang, or they were dropped out of a gang, but still representing colors and getting shot. Say, hey, you know what? It's because you're wearing the wrong color. You got to change your dress.
So you prepare them in so many different ways, but you've placed 17 or 1,800 now into jobs. And so you've got job developers at Hope Now that are looking for companies and individuals to provide jobs?
Yes, we got 3 job developers right now that are out there looking for employment for our guys. When they get through the program of Hope Now for Youth, the classes, we in turn have them see the job developers and tell the job developers this guy's ready for work. He meets requirements, tucked in shirt, and just his speech, all these filler words like hey, homie, or what's up, all that, hopefully that is gone, just they're ready. They're ready for work.
That's excellent. And so how can the church, how can the people of God be supportive of this effort that's now, I think, about 15 years old? How can the church be supportive? What are some of the roles they can play?
Well, transportation-wise, we guys need to get to work. Some of the guys, you'll be amazed, some of these guys walk miles, but they'll do that for work too. And one of the crucial areas I would say is bicycles. You got an old bike that you're not using no more, give Hope Now a call, we can pick it up. Also employment, definitely. Odd jobs too as well. You got some work that needs to be done, cut grass or something. You could even request a counselor to be there, and we could supervise the guys and get it done right. And it's a part of a test too, to see if the guy shows up on time, he works hard and motivated and takes instruction well, okay? Because, we tell the guys, as I mentioned, I came to the program too, and I've had 8 jobs through Hope Now as a youth. And I was never fired. I was laid off and promoted. My relationship with Hope Now is always calling them and just follow-up stuff. I never had that in my life. These guys, they have us, okay? And that's something that I talk about.
That's an amazing model. They mentor them through their first year of work. It's an amazing model. Sergio, thank you very much for being such a great example in our city. We'd like you to get to know this book now, and so I'm handing off to Christy Nichols, who's going to point your attention to another great ministry. We're just going to have her read.
I am reading from page 24 about Boaz and Ruth Restore Corps. They are in Richmond, Virginia. The story of Boaz and Ruth Restore Corps begins with a concern for the disparity of wealth and resources in Richmond, and was envisioned by Martha Rollins, the owner of an antique shop. She shared her vision with the Women's Roundtable, and those women joined her in the plan. One friend offered the use of a vacant building she owned in an impoverished Richmond neighborhood. Another offered a $150,000 grant matched by a church. And a third donated her household of valuable furniture to be resold. These resources began the first of now 6 Boaz and Ruth businesses, which function as tools and contexts for restoring lives and communities through relationships. Since its beginning in 2002, Boaz and Ruth Restore Corps has come to include several people on staff. They write, "A mighty river never comes into existence by itself, but is a result of many streams coming together into one strong body. So it is with Boaz and Ruth. While Martha Rollins was building her antique shop, Rosa Jiggets was selling food out of a bus and praying. Ellen Robertson was becoming politically active, and Lloyd Price was following God's call to return to Highland Park. Clarence and Veronica, the first employees, were living their lives not knowing that they were waiting for Boaz and Ruth, and the customer was developing the means and resources that would be needed. All came together in good time, God's time. Boaz and Ruth is not the story of any one person. It's the story of many people coming together out of the faith and loving concern for the people in their city. Boaz and Ruth serves the purposes of providing life and work skills through employment in its businesses, reentry assistance for released prisoners, and commercial revitalization for the troubled community of Highland Park and other culturally and economically disparate communities within the Richmond metropolitan area. Now Artie Padilla is going to share.
Thank you, Christy. I'm going to read a little bit about something happening locally here in Fresno with Neighborhood Thrift. This is from page 49 in chapter 4. Neighborhood Thrift was birthed as a ministry from a local church. The Well Community Church began an outreach in central Fresno in 2002. And as the church and outreach began to grow, the congregation started to give unwanted clothes, furniture, and other household goods to their ministry team. These were then given to the families in their neighborhood with whom they had built relationships. By 2005, people were donating so many goods that the church's storage sheds were constantly full, and the team couldn't donate them quickly enough. At the same time, a graduate from the Pink House Center of Urban Ministry Training, run by the Fresno Institute for Urban Leadership, wanted to mix his business degree with his desire for ministry. God was in the mix, and the thrift store took shape. So I'm standing with Brian File, who is that gentleman that I referred to, and he leads up Neighborhood Thrift for the, well, now it's on its own. But I wanted to ask Brian if you can kind of briefly explain that first year of how the Well helped launch Neighborhood Thrift.
Yeah, so the Well had been in partnership with Every Neighborhood Partnership, which had just started. And so basically to become an economic engine within the downtown kind of Tower, Susan B. Anthony community. And so the mission director at the time set aside some resources and basically started us off with about $18,000, I think, to get the store started. So we were kind of all under the infrastructure of the Well at that time. They had set us up with our nonprofit status and kind of that system to start building what would become kind of Neighborhood Thrift.
And what was the initial investment on the staff's time besides the monetary amount that you gave?
So I think, I mean, it was very minimal. I think our mission director, Tim Getz, had started meeting, with us he would do a yearly retreat with us and maybe meet with me every other week just to kind of keep tabs on how things are going and help problem solve, because the three of us who had started the store had never, really had much retail experience except for maybe some, book knowledge. And so it was very minimal until probably the year and a half later after we started. They ran all of our payroll and our back end stuff. But as we grew, we were able to bring that stuff in-house.
Okay. So then you became more self-sufficient and didn't really need so much of their support. And kind of describe years 2 up until currently and how that's kind of grown.
Yeah, so now we've been in business for 4 years, and that initial $18,000 has since rotated around $1.3 million within that community. So through jobs and through products just being donated simply to the store to provide this training. I think we've had, probably in the low hundreds of individuals who have come to Neighborhood Thrift to gain some work experience and have that opportunity to learn what do, employers who are hiring, what do they expect? And so we don't compromise on that standard.
So 18,000 turning into 1.3 million, that's pretty good investment, a little bit better than Facebook's doing right now. That's another story. But tell us a little bit, you're working with some individuals that are hard, they've been kind of maybe unemployed for a while or maybe on assistance. Tell us some of the challenges that come along with that, but also, the celebrations as well.
Definitely, and so we've worked with many different programs like the CalWorks program, and so it's challenging when we work with individuals who, have maybe been on cash aid or the welfare system for generations, and so it can be a foreign concept to show up to work on time, and 2 minutes late is just as the same as 10 minutes late to us, and so there's challenges in kind of problem solving different aspects with people's lives. So we use kind of business as a classroom for life. And so once you start, getting into people's lives, you get into other issues that didn't come out maybe originally, but so we're able to kind of problem solve with conflict resolution and different training skills.
Thanks so much, Brian. We appreciate your leadership. I'm going to pass it on to Randy White, and he's going to do an interview using Skype.
Thank you. And Brian, what are you doing every month now? What's your retail every month these days? Your sales every month? 30,000 a month in retail sales. Okay, praise the Lord. All right, we are now going to meet Pastor Michael Odom, who is, we are connecting from here to Albany, Georgia. Can you hear me, Michael? Pastor Odom?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Randy?
All right, good to see you. I first met Michael in Ghana, in Accra, doing one of our trainings there. Michael's with Baki Graduate University as a student and is a pastor in Albany, Georgia of Agape Christian Church. So welcome. Michael, you're looking at me, but there are about 125 other people out here listening to you and seeing you on these big screens. And
okay, great.
I don't know who Jan Bose Martinez is, but we're going to say no right now. Okay.
I'm glad that's not me.
We're going to give you, all right. So we only have a few minutes, Michael, but thank you for taking time with us. Pastor, tell us a little bit about the two businesses that you started out of your church in Albany.
Okay, first, thank you, Randy, for allowing me to talk to your group. I'm very honored to do so. But we started two businesses in our church based from the need of benevolence. We received a lot of requests for benevolence, and we figured out we had to do something because we did not have a money tree in the backyard. And so we started this Just Jump event rental business and also Agape Moving Services. The Agape Moving Services is a moving help service that will help clients move and load and unload their furniture, and also we will pack and unpack. In addition to that, we would cleaning services after we load your furniture to the vehicle. The Just Jump event rental business is actually a bounce house business. For like kids, birthday
bounce
parties.
houses, those inflatable bounce houses.
Yes, sir.
All
Definitely, yes. It was a great ideal, and it's going well. Both businesses are going well.
All right, and so you started them as a way to involve mostly men who have had a hard time finding employment. And how's that gone? What's been the impact in their lives?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, my goodness. Every day is there's a moment to shed a tear or two because some of the workers just expressed that this check they receive is going to put food on the table. Even some of them will actually ask for additional funding to help to pay rent. And so what we'll do, we'll try to work with them, negotiate, so when more jobs come down the pipe, they can kind of work it and earn their wages that way.
Sure. And so the business sustaining themselves right now?
Oh, yes, sir. It's self-sustaining. The moving help business, the Agape Moving Service is very low to start and it's self-sustaining. But the Just Jump rental business, we had to come out of our personal funding to not the church funding, but actually individual will support it resources-wise. And it's self-sustaining. Yes, it's paying the overhead for the workers and also is paying all the just the requirements to keep the business afloat. Yes, sir.
That's fantastic. How is your congregation involved in this process? Can you just tell us what that's meant for your congregation?
Oh, my goodness. You know, you're my tutor, so I've been preaching and talking about transformation and empowerment and becoming a church with the city, not in or to the city. And so it started right there, just talking about being a church that's going to make a difference. And we do that by sacrificing, getting involved, and empowering people, and not just giving handouts, but giving the hand up.
Okay. And what kinds of, did you get any resistance from anybody, or what kinds of obstacles have you had to overcome in planting these two businesses?
Well, one of the funny thing about it is that when we begin to, especially the men and those that are able to work, when we begin to say, okay, well, we can't support you with benevolence, but guess what? We can give you some work, and through that you can earn. And so some of the resistance is just trying to change the mindset of people, especially here in Albany, is that you got to work for a living. And so that challenged those that are just looking for handouts.
All right. Fantastic. And then any words of advice you might give to some of these leaders out here? Some of them are pastors. What words of advice would you give them if they thought they might want to start a business and work with people who are hard to place?
Oh, right, yeah. Well, only advice I would say is that I started with my leaders, and I started with them so we can rally around the table, trying to find a solution that could empower people. And when they saw the joys that was on the face of those that normally look for benevolence, but they're happy that they're working for wages and have done something for their dignity, then everybody got involved and got aboard. And so what happened, my advice would be to really pour this concept into leaders of empowering people, not just feeding them, but really finding them creative ways to make wages.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Pastor. We appreciate you taking time with us, and we're happy to know. I hope you can hear the applause out here. All right. And, of course, you are mentioned in this new book that we've just published, and a copy is on its way to you. And so bless you and your ministry in Albany, Georgia. Godspeed to you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, sir. Love it. Thank you all.
Take care. Pass it off to Bud Searcy, who has the mic.
I'd like to introduce Brad Sparks. He's a local business owner. Brad, come on up here. Brad, what's the name of your company?
Fresno Tractor.
Okay. And how long have you been hiring men from the academy, and about how many have you hired during that time?
I would believe about 8 years, and we probably hired a dozen plus men over the 8 years.
Question begs to be answered. Why? Why do you hire men that are graduates from a program?
The truth is there's some skilled individuals within the mission who unfortunately found themselves in an addiction, be it drugs, alcohol, pornography, a number of different issues, who are looking for a way up or a help up or hand up. And I believe we're called through Scripture. One of the verses I love is Hebrews 13:3. Remember those in prison as if you were their fellow prisoner, and those who are suffering as if you yourself were suffering. There are a number of individuals within the mission suffering from an addiction who need to find employment to get back to what God has called them to do and to be.
Now, through those years, obviously there's been some challenges, but what would you say during your time of hiring men from the academy? What have been some of the benefits as well as some of the challenges that you faced through the years?
Like I said, there are some skilled individuals within these programs, and working with the staff of the Fresno Rescue Mission who live with these men on a daily basis, they are a great source to help you find the right candidate to fill the position that you might have. And so the mission itself is an invaluable tool to get into the work ethic, the character, personality type of the individual, so that you know a little bit about the man or woman. In fact, with Samaritan women, know a little bit about the individual before you hire them. A lot of times when you hire people off the street, you have a resume, you might get a little information from their previous employer. With the mission, you get a lot of information about the individual that is valuable to make right decisions of employment.
What about some of the challenges?
Some of the challenges is looking at the person instead of looking at the advice that the mission gives you. You might have a big heart and you care about this individual and you want to give them an opportunity, but unfortunately they're not ready for the position, and you let your heart get in the way of your head and the decision that you make. And so that's probably one of the biggest challenges. Use the mission, talk to Bud, Javier, others down at the mission, and get some advice from them on who would be the best candidate. I think is the best resource.
Now, if you were to say one thing to, I'm sure there's business owners here in this audience, if you were to say one thing to other business owners who may be considering hiring men from either the rescue mission or some other program, what would that be?
Well, if you're a Christian, I'm going to tell it to you this way. Don't necessarily to hire somebody to keep them indefinitely. Hire them to give them a hand up and hope they find employment elsewhere. The challenge for a lot of these individuals is go and give someone a resume where I've been in a program for the last 18 months. Add to that, I've been in prison for the last 6 years. Very hard to find a job. allow them to come to work for you, work with them to develop their skills, and be happy for them if they find a job someplace else, that you might see it as another opportunity to hire another individual and give that person a job.
Thanks a lot, Brad.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're trying to give you different glimpses from different constituencies. So you've heard from a pastor, you've heard from a businessman, you're going to hear from a nonprofit leader now. We want us to all be in the game here in the process. And Christy Nichols is going to connect with the person who was just trying to reach us a minute ago on Skype. Her name is Jan Bose Martinez, and she is with Christ Kitchen, and I'll let Christy tell you about them.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Jan. Thank you so much for waiting. Are we going to get her photo?
Yeah.
Okay, we're waiting for your photo to come up. We're going to be interviewing Jan Martinez, who is with Christ Kitchen in Spokane, Washington. Thanks so much for waiting, Jan. We're running a little bit behind. We're going to wait just for your photo to show up so everyone can see it on the screen.
Okay.
Okay, we've got the photo of you holding a fish. So. But, you know, I think we'll just go ahead and just keep going, and we'll just imagine you speaking. Can you please describe Christ Kitchen for us?
Yes, Christ Kitchen is a job training ministry. We hire women living in poverty to make our gourmet soup mixes, and we also have a catering business and a small restaurant.
Okay. And how long have you guys been in business?
We started in 1998.
Okay.
We started in a small church in the poorest neighborhood, actually, in the state of Washington. In 2006, we moved into a larger facility in order to have a commercial kitchen where we could make our products. So we expanded at that time.
Okay. Now, from what I can understand, you, prior to starting Christ Kitchen, you were a practicing therapist. So what prompted you to start a small business, say, as compared to starting a counseling center?
Well, I was working as a therapist at an indigent clinic and really got to know the population within that setting. The main reason I didn't open a counseling practice larger than I already had for them is that this population doesn't really go to therapy. Therapy is really a resource of the middle and upper classes. I found, however, in my therapy that the women that I was seeing were incredibly isolated. Most had been through very extreme trauma as children, and they were not interested in going to therapy, but I knew they were interested in a Bible study, and because they really loved hearing stories and also the Word. But when I started Bible study, they didn't come to that either. So really what I wanted to do was encourage them to come to Bible study. And one of the other necessities of their life that they didn't have was money. So I had to come up with a way of kind of wooing them into a group gathering because most of them all of them would say they didn't have any girlfriends and never had. So they often were moving their kids from house to house, often with people who promised rent. And they really support in their lives. And I knew they could support each other and be a very real resource to each other. And so through a work setting, that's what wooed them in. And then really all the other stability work that started going on because of their work, we began to see their lives being transformed.
Okay. And that last sentence was because of their employment, they were gaining stability, and that was the place of life where their life transformation began.
Yes.
What does that look like? You've described it a little bit, and basically you're saying that it was the need for employment that drew people in to engage with you and engage in Christ's Kitchen. But what does that look like on a day-to-day basis to be having both business and ministry essentially together in the same context?
It's very challenging because we're running a profitable business with broken and healing people. And so running a business, starting a business, there's a lot of people that can help with that. But I didn't have any examples or know of anybody who had discipled or mentored women living in poverty, because it's a very different, it's a different population. And one of the things we had to do was really learn what worked and what didn't work with this population. They are experiential learners. They aren't achievement-oriented learners as the middle class is. And so we had to devise different incentives for them, because they had a very different approach to life than I had been familiar with.
So it sounds like you've had to learn a lot yourself in order to really help these women grow in the context of work.
Yes.
One last question. What do you envision for the future of Christ Kitchen?
Well, we have plans of making a production facility next door and enlarging our restaurant, because restaurants can hire around 20 people a day part-time.
We're having, Christy, we're going to have, since you just had a role here, we're going to ask Artie to read what you would have read about Belay Enterprises.
Okay, and Belay is another national ministry in Denver, Colorado. On page 23, I'll just read the first paragraph. Launched in 1995 as a collaborative effort between business owners, builders, pastors, and leaders, Belay Enterprises aims to partner with area churches to develop businesses to employ and job train individuals rebuilding lives from addiction, homelessness, prison, and or poverty in order to strengthen families and neighborhoods. Essential to living out the mission is not only Belay's contribution to economic development, but also its offer of personal support to individuals, employees, functioning as a strong partner and a safety net for those becoming empowered and set free from the past. So as you read on later on, you'll read about some of the businesses that they started and how that has grown over the years, and just how that collaborative has thrived. And I think it's something that we probably could duplicate here in Fresno. So, if that's something that might be sparking your brain, move forward with that.
So you've heard from business, you've heard from nonprofits, you've heard from the church, and these are all really crucial. They're all things we need to acquire as a skill set here in Fresno, and venture out and support each other in this process. In the book, you'll see we've featured in a little bit more complete detail case studies of businesses here. J&D Foods, for example, an amazing business that has a heart for training people that don't always come to them with the best skill sets, and has a heart for seeing business as ministry. Business as ministry, the true ministry of the laity. But that can't be the whole picture itself. This, in many ways, this effort, this initiative got launched when Mayor Swearingen was launching her Learn to Earn program, which unites 21 different educational institutions in the city to help solve that educational problem, letting people take a step up and become more qualified. And I'm going to weave my way all the way back here, because I saw Robert back here somewhere. There you are, Robert. This is Robert De La Torre with the Learn to Earn initiative. And Robert, greetings.
Hi.
Robert, tell us a little bit about Learn to Earn. What is it?
Learn to Earn is a collaborative between the many adult education institutions who come together. Although we're technically in competition with one another, we work together to help those who are looking to acquire or further their education, whether that be as training, vocational training, or degrees themselves. Centralizing it with today's market being so saturated with marketing and commercials, and sometimes exploitation of the individual to come to a specific program. We've kind of flipped that and made the individual the center, and helping them acquire or attain the goals or their dreams that they want to do in regards to the careers that they need to take care of their families.
So you're talking about anything from, getting a welding certificate all the way to a 4-year degree. It doesn't matter where I am in that process. If I want to take a step up educationally, that's what Learn to Earn does. It kind of routes them in the right direction.
It actually goes to as basic as just your high school diploma or GED, and then extends beyond that 4-year degree. For many people, they do have a 4-year degree and maybe had chose to go in a specific direction, but now want to go in another direction and want to filter through a lot of that noise and information that's out there. We help to consolidate.
And especially people at the lower end of this process, it's very confusing. And so having a guide and a mentor to walk you through, that's just incredible. In the first 2 weeks of this program, I understand you had 500 people sign up for Learn to Earn. I don't know where it is now, but...
Yes, I think it was close to the 300, but we're talking about quality individuals. Whereas a lot of times when you go out to seek individuals, you may have 1,000 people attend an event, but only maybe 100 really are interested. Out of the 300, within a few weeks we already had, I don't know how many people enrolled into a program and in the direction of where they're trying to go.
Okay, how does 211 work? Tell us about that.
That is our partnering organization. 211 was around before Learn to Earn, where an individual can call in to get information about anything. They've partnered with us so that when you call 211, it'll ask you to press 1 for Learn to Earn or 2 for other needs. And we understand that for many individuals, especially with the numbers and statistics you talked about, have other needs that need to be taken care of. For example, I'm a single father of 2 girls. If I don't know that they're okay, I can't be here doing what I need to do. So for many, continuing their education, if they don't have food, shelter, transportation, whatever it may need, they make education something more of an afterthought.
Now, Robert, you work for FPU. Why are you working with Learn to Earn? Tell us a little bit of your story.
Well, 1, my name got thrown in the hat. But 2, it's my own personal testimony. I work at an organization where, fortunately, I get to talk about my own testimony. Long story short was I got myself, I'm the first in my family to graduate from college, but prior to that, I got myself in a lot of trouble, gangbanging, violence, etc. Long story short, people took the time to mentor me, to take the time to be there. So you get to see my ugly face on some of the billboards and things like that for what's going on with Learn to Earn, but it's in testimony to those people in the background, in the scene behind me who help take the time to mentor me.
And this is very much the kind of guidance that Learn to Earn is going to offer to people who want to get back into or onto the education pathway. So final question is, how can the people of God, the church scattered throughout the community, be connected to Learn to Earn? Tell us about the mentor program.
That's a great question. Well, as you heard me say, my face is on the billboard, but the people who really should be up there are the people who took the time to mentor me. So everyone here is involved, I'm sure, in a career or something of some sort that can benefit these individuals. Nothing says more than when you take the time out of your busy schedule to volunteer your time to mentor them. Again, with all the commercialism that's going on, trust is a big issue. When you have somebody in maybe a career that you'd like to be in and they take the time to explain to you how they got there, what that individual can do to take part in that, there's a trust. Not to mention, we talked about the other needs involved. Well, there's a lot of spiritual need there. And a lot more people would be open to hearing about God if you help them take care of some of their physical needs. In turn, you can fill the whole of their spiritual needs.
So Learn to Earn wants a whole pool of potential mentors in all sorts of different fields. You could be in engineering, you could be in business, you could know how to write a business plan. There are all sorts of things that you have skills and knowledge in, and you may not feel like, I love choirs, but maybe that's not your thing, singing in the choir in church, right? And I love Sunday school, but maybe you don't want to teach Sunday school. But this could be a way of utilizing the skill set you do have with a younger person on a more beginning part of that pathway to act as a mentor for them. And you'll have an opportunity to sign up for that a little bit later today. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's going to take businesses, it's going to take churches, it's going to take nonprofits, and it's going to take a comprehensive, systemic approach to improving the educational skills of our residents. And let me ask you, is this church stuff? It is. Why? Because Jesus is Lord, and there isn't an area of life he doesn't want to exert his lordship over. Jesus is Lord, and it's going to take all of God's people with all the skill sets and all the privileges and the resources that we have. We have a local church here that's recognized how important just gathering people who are unemployed and caring for them and helping them write resumes and encouraging, supporting each other to stay in the game. And Artie's going to interview that church.
Okay, thank you. So I have Sean Meyer from North Point Church. Jeff Harrington mentions in the book in chapter 5 jobs clubs. Now, North Point doesn't call their ministry a jobs club, but I'm going to let Sean share kind of the heart of how their North Point Works ministry was created, how the Lord stirred folks from the congregation to help lead that up. So, Sean, give us a little bit of the background on that.
Okay, yeah. It was probably a few years ago. We have quite a few human resources professionals in our congregation, and just during the economic downturn, we were finding some people that were high-level, high-capacity earners that were actually finding themselves out of jobs, and I think we kind of called it the great equalizer of some of the things that we saw. We were not immune, even though we were in Northwest Fresno. And we do have money trees in the backyards. I'm just kidding. No, we were not immune from what was going on across the board economically in our city, in our state, and in our country. So this started as people just wanted to do ministry to their fellow church members and just know that we're here for you, we love you, and we're thinking about you. We want to pray for you, and we want to teach folks to seek first the kingdom. And so we want to help you figure out how it is that God does want to bless you during this time. If this is one of the valleys and you're going to be in that for a while, how can we support you? How can we pray with you? What can we learn about how God wants to influence your life during this time? The faster we can learn that, the faster we can get on with it, we figured. But we are dealing with a little bit of a different demographic in our church family. So we did find that we were finding people unemployed that had been not in the job market for a very long period of time. So we're lacking resume writing skills, interviewing skills. Gone are the days where you walk into someone's office, chit-chat, and walk out with a job. There are specific things that people are looking for, and we had quite a few. Honestly, guys, if there's a need in your congregation, I've just learned that God has provided a minister that is a volunteer that will step up. You just got to flesh them out and train them up and equip the saints. That's really, really how I feel about that. But so we started, the North Point Works Ministry decided as a way of practical help on top of the support, as a way to practically help people, we would host workshops, resume writing workshops. We would have professionals do mock interviews where after you worked on a resume, you would go to a table with a human resources professional that is volunteering their time to take you through an interview for a hypothetical job and would stop you at certain points and give you, coach you. So that has been quite a help. We've had lots and lots of great stories about people getting jobs, because while it's not a job providing ministry in its original sense and how it originated, as a minister, when I find about jobs, where do you think I send them? North Point Works, because I know there's people there that need jobs. So that comes from that, and it happens, even though it's not the initial purpose. That also gave birth to a network. There is a local network. You can go to ChristianCareerDepot.com. I believe that originated with a partnership between us and New Cove and my sister's Closet and some other partners that are local. ChristianCareerDepot.com just wants to help people get the tools.
And I kind of want to expand on the fact you mentioned that this ministry is run by volunteers. I see Carlotta is sitting here, and she really leads that up. Just reemphasize the fact that you don't have to add more responsibilities to the pastors that are on staff already to add more to their plate, and this is really led by the congregation themselves.
Yeah, personally, my position on staff at North Point is minister to volunteers, and so I oversee our serve areas and really equip the saints for the work of ministry. I respond to people who say, we think this is something we want to do, and I say, how can I help you do that? How can I equip you? What can I get? What kind of training can I get you? What are you thinking? So we sit down, we interview, we talk. What does it look like for you? I take part in shaping that a little bit, as you might imagine, and we make sure it fits the mission of the church. And so really it becomes a function of oversight for me, but not a micromanaging, hands-on thing. It's more of a response mode, and how can I help you do the ministry that God has put on your heart?
Thank you, Sean, so much. And Carlotta has actually extended this out to Southwest Fresno in different realms as well. So I really appreciate the ministry that has started there at North Point. And then they've offered, after we're done here, if you wanted to come and talk to them, they'd be happy to chat with you about that. Okay. We're going to have some prayer time around our tables. So if, there's a lot that we can pray for. We can pray for our city's unemployment. We can pray for the individuals that we really... Okay, before we pray, we are going... There's some questions on the tabletop cards that you have on your tables. What's the first question? What do you think of these examples that we've shared about? And then how could the church get more engaged on some of these issues? So let's just have about a 5-minute discussion on your round table there, and then discuss that. If you come up with some brilliant ideas, jot them down and give them to us, please. And then I'm going to cut back in a few minutes, and we're going to have some prayer time.
We got 5 minutes. We're just a little over today, but we're 4 minutes over. We're asking for 5 more minutes of your time, please, so that we can finish today. We're launching a year-long process and inviting the church and faith-rooted nonprofits and Christian-owned businesses to get involved by bringing their human assets to the table on behalf of Fresno's jobless. And so here's what we're doing so far. We're proposing to start very simply with book discussion groups using the study guide that's in the front flap of the book. Take a look at that. That's something, if you don't get one, you can find one at the back of the room in another book. It is a discussion guide for the book, and you might consider doing that for 6 weeks in your church in a Sunday school format, or something else in a small group, a house church. You might want to talk about this together. Questions are designed for each chapter. We hope at least 10 churches, and hopefully more, will get into this kind of a study, as well as learn some of the practical models that they might get excited about. Jeff Harrington, if you'll turn to the back of the book, Jeff Harrington and Bud Searcy have an excellent chapter on next steps. It's close to the end. It's, chapter 5 or 6, something like that. And that is an incredible chapter that deals with things like social investment groups, or business advisors, or individualized development accounts, or jobs clubs. These are things that that are very tangible things that churches can do if they want to go higher up and deeper in on this. And so get to know the book and use it as a resource. That's our first hope. Secondly, we're going to be hosting a church-based job creation workshop in early spring in 2013. If you think your church might be interested in investigating starting a business or using any other of the mechanisms featured in the books, we will be glad to get you an invitation to that workshop. And then in late spring, especially for those who took part in the workshop, but for others as well, we're going to be hosting a faith-rooted business plan contest for the submission of the best business plan that provides employment or training opportunities for unemployed members of a church or a neighborhood. Do you have business people in your congregation that could get into that and write a very creative business plan and try to launch it? We'll have a grant for that church or organization that wins the contest for the best business plan. Let me point you to the final chapter, and that is the chapter that we call Imagineering. And this is a commencement address given in the year 2035 to the graduating class of Fresno Pacific University by the then mayor at the time, fictitious mayor named Pahua Vang, who is excited about the things that have taken place in the last 25 years. In other words, this is what our city could be like. And it's her address to these graduating seniors saying, you guys just don't remember what it was like back in 2015, right? This is our attempt at rewriting the narrative of our city. And you all get to have an active role in rewriting the way we talk about Fresno, the way we think about Fresno, its assets, its beauty, and its people, which are our most amazing and valuable resource. Let me say one final word. If you would like to get a copy of this book to your pastor, there are extra copies at the back. You see Jeanette waving her hand back there in the blue shirt. Jeanette will give you an extra copy for your pastor. If you have multiple pastoral staff, you can have more than one, but she'll need to take the name of your church because we are giving a copy to every one of the 500 churches in Fresno, every one of the Christian nonprofits in Fresno. We've already given copies to the Business Council's Stewardship Initiative. We've already given copies to CBMC and CBWC. We're very excited about the distribution plan, but we want it to be accurate to be sure that everyone is covered. Well, I think the last thing I want to say, we must enlist the church gathered and scattered in this city. If we do that, I think there's a bright future ahead. And so I'm really grateful for this chance to be with you all today and to be partners with you in this process. Thank you for being here today. We do have some announcements.
Yeah, give Randy a round of applause. Well, as you can tell, No Name's not an organization that's sitting still. We are very active. You guys can, this is the website. We have a lot of news and information and calendar updates, stuff that gets sent to us from stuff that's going on throughout the city. So check that out.
So sorry. Yeah. After you're done, we forgot something.
Just a heads up, we just want to give you a heads up for the July No Name date, still to be determined, end of July. You guys may have gotten an email if you're working in a church context. We've been sending out a survey of what are churches doing in their neighborhood and how can we, as No Name, facilitate and encourage churches to be engaged and strategic about their neighborhood and their context and kind of the idea of reparishing their neighborhood. So that's going to be the topic for July. So look forward to that. Look forward to that email. That's all I got. So, Christy, there you go.
Since we are running late, I'm not going to take much time for this, but I would like to draw your attention to the response card that is on your table. We are just hoping that you might be prayerfully consider a next step that you might like to take. If you could please mark that on this card, or if you're like me and you need to take time to process information like this, maybe you'd like to read through the book a little bit, and then consider a response. At least if you could put your contact information on this card so that we can know that you are interested, we would really appreciate that. As Randy mentioned, we have a process, a year-long plan that goes from here of how we like to actually implement some of these new practices. And if you could just leave those on the table, we would appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.